Hi everyone. Today we're going to learn how to factor. Now, what is factoring? It's something you probably haven't seen much of before. So let's go ahead and fill in a few short fill in the blanks at the top. We can rewrite many trinomials. Now remember, a trinomial, tri means three, like a tricycle has three wheels. It is an expression that has three terms. Okay, and you can see an example of one right here, 2x squared minus 9x plus 10. There are three separate terms. Now we can rewrite those as a product of two binomials. Now binomials, bi means two, like a bicycle has two wheels. So we are rewriting trinomials as the product or multiplication of two-termed expressions called binomials. And this process we call factoring. We've talked about that. So we have steps to it that are here. And now, while it may look like a lot, it doesn't take as much as you would think. So let's look at our first example and follow the steps that are on the left. The first step is to identify your A, B, and C value. The A value is the coefficient of the x squared, which in this case is 2. The B value is the coefficient of your x term, which is -9. And your C value is the constant, the one without an x at all. Okay. Now we create this eye chart that you see on the side, creating a big letter I. On the top of your I, you're going to multiply the A and the C values. In this case, multiplying 2 and 10. 2 times 10 is 20. And on the bottom of your eye chart, we are going to put the B value, which in this case is -9. Now we need to fill in this chart. What we're going to start by doing is within the chart, we're going to come up with all of the factors of 20. Okay, so to come up with the factors of 20, that just means things that multiply to give us 20. In this case, we have 1 times 20, of course, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. And you'd think that's enough, but there are lots of other also examples of things that multiply to give us 20. For instance, we could look at negative numbers, okay? And we're going to need to, because the purpose of this, as you can see in step 4 and 5, it says find the factors that multiply to give you the top value. We did that. We found 3 things that multiply to give us 20. But which of these factors also add up to the bottom value, or the B value? That is actually quite important to this. We want something that is going to multiply to give us that -9, or add up to give us that -9 at the bottom. So maybe we need to make a note of that. In the top, we're trying to find out things that multiply to give us 20, but we're trying to find also those same two numbers need to add up to equal -9. So looking at the ones we have already, 1 plus 20 gives me 21, not -9. We know all of these multiply to 20, but they don't all add up to -9. 2 plus 10 is 12. 4 plus 5 is 9. That's close, but we want -9. So that is also out. We need to think of some other factors that will multiply to give us 20, but add up to equal -9. Now remember, guys, 20 is positive. So in order to get a positive number, we might want to consider multiplying a negative times a negative. Like -1 times -20 also gives us positive 20. -2 times -10, and -4 times -5. And once again, going through and finding the ones that add up to that bottom value, -9. These do not, these do not. And I think we have finally found our pair, which is -4 and -5. Not only do they multiply to give you a positive 20, the top value, but they add up to give you -9, the bottom value. Those are our two factors. Now, what do we do with them? Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are going to, and this is step 6, okay, rewrite the middle term of a trinomial as the sum of the newfound factors. So you can see your trinomial there at the top, and we are going to rewrite it. So 2x squared is going to remain the same for now, and so is your plus 10. Notice I'm leaving space here. Okay? I'm going to rewrite that middle term as the sum of my two new factors. So instead of negative 9x, I could rewrite it as negative 4x minus 5x, because our two terms were negative 4 and negative 5. So notice all I really did was I put x's with them. So we split negative 9x into negative 4x minus 5x, which you do, if you were to combine them, would give you that negative 9x that I have circled there. Now we're on step 7, group the first two terms and the second two terms in parentheses. Okay, so we've got 2x squared minus 4x and negative 5x plus 10. Now this is the part that might be tricky for some of us, is to find the greatest common factor. What multiplies, what is our GCF for each of these? So looking at the first set of parentheses, we have 2x squared and negative 4x. First of all, they both have x's in them, so I can take out at least one of those x's from the parentheses, and they're both divisible by 2. Okay, so that means I can divide each of them by 2. So 2 divided by 2, like if we were actually to divide these by the GCF, we will see what's left in those parentheses. So these 2's cancel, and we're dividing by x, leaving us with only one x left here. Here the x's cancel, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now, what is our GCF for the second set of parentheses? First of all, if it's negative, we need to factor out a negative. And I believe 5 divides into both 5 and 10. So I'm factoring out a negative 5, which is my GCF. If you're uncertain, you can also do it in the calculator. In Calculate, you can go to Menu, number 2 for number, and they call it the greatest common divisor. We call it the greatest common factor, but it is number 5. And you just need to type in the two numbers that you're trying to find the greatest common factor of. In this case, negative 5 and comma positive 10. And our GCF, it says is 5, but keeping in mind we do want to keep the negative with it. So we are factoring out a negative 5, not a positive 5. Okay. And what's remaining if I divide that negative 5 away? What's remaining inside those parentheses when we take out the negative 5? Divide them both by that negative 5. Keep in mind, this is just like the reverse of distribution. We're left with an x, because negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1, so 1x, and 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. Now, what do you notice about this? Hopefully you notice that what's in the parentheses here is the same as what's in the parentheses here. So what's really happening here is that we have two terms. This is a term, minus, and then this is a term. And since they both have something in common, x minus 2, I'm going to factor out that x minus 2. I'm factoring it out of both terms. And what is really remaining if I were to take away the x minus 2 from both of them? What would be left? 2x minus 5. What you see there in blue, I wrote them in a second set of parentheses. We have officially factored our trinomial into two binomials. Okay? It's not as bad as it might seem. Let's look at another example. So in this one, we're going to create our eye chart. So start off by identifying our A, B, and C. Our A is 1. Okay. Our B is 5, and our C is negative 14. So remember, what goes on top of the eye is A times C. So in this case, 1 times negative 14, which is negative 14. And in the bottom, we put our B value, which is 5. So now we need to start coming up with all of the factors of negative 14, all the things that multiply to give me negative 14. So in this case, we have 1 and negative 14, of course. Now we could flip it and make the 1 negative. 2 times negative 7, or negative 2 times positive 7. And that looks like all of our factors. Now let's look to see which ones add up to equal the B value, 5. So we've got 1 plus negative 14 is negative 13. Negative 1 plus 14 is positive 13. So it's down to these final two. If we were to add these two together, they would equal negative 5, and if we were to add these two together, we would get positive 5. We want positive 5. So these are our two factors, negative 2 and positive 7. All right. Once we have our factors, remember we are rewriting our trinomial here. The x squared will stay the same, and the minus 14 will stay the same. But between them, remember we are splitting 5x into our two new factors that we have highlighted, negative 2x and positive 7x. Yes, they do need the x's with them, guys, because the 5x is an x, and we're splitting it into the sum of two x's. Now we put our parentheses. And we factor out our greatest common factor. In the first set of parentheses, there are no numbers that they're both divisible by, but they do both have an x. So I can factor out one of the x's. So if I factor out an x from x squared, it leaves me with 1x. And remember, guys, x times x is x squared. So you can always distribute it back out to see if you're correct. And if I take an x away from negative 2x, it leaves me with just negative 2. Now in the next one, they don't both have x's, so I cannot factor out an x, but they are both divisible by positive 7. So I am factoring out positive 7, and remember to see what's left in the parentheses, divide them both by that 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1, so 1x, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. It is important to note that we can see that they both have a binomial in common, x minus 2. So we're factoring out that x minus 2 from both of them. And what is remaining? An x and a plus 7. That goes in the second set of parentheses. And that is our factored form of that trinomial. Okay, I want you to really give example number 3 a try. So give number 3 a try. I'll give you a hint. The B value is 0. So go ahead and try example number 3 on your own, and then unpause and see what the solution is. Hopefully you are now unpausing it to see how you did on this one. So you can see the T chart or the I chart on the right. I found my multiple of A and C is negative 49, and my B value is 0. So we were looking for two numbers that multiply to give me negative 49, but add up to give me 0. So I had negative 1 and positive 49, positive 1 and negative 49, and negative 7 times positive 7, which ended up being the correct one because a number and its opposite will always add up to 0, like negative 7 and positive 7, negative 1,000,000 and positive 1,000,000. So we wrote out 0x as 7x minus 7x. Same thing as 0, right? 7 minus 7. We factored out our GCFs. And then we factored out the binomial x plus 7, and then what was left over, you see I have circled here, is x minus 7. I want to leave you on one thought. Is there a shortcut for getting this answer without having to do all of this work for this kind of problem? Really think about it. And if you have a question, ask your teacher.